Hello everyone and welcome. Tonight I'm going to go a little bit more personal because I have been experimenting a little bit in the background myself with my own health and weight loss so that I can bring some guidance to you. So I went keto for 4 weeks as a perimenopausal woman and I would not be doing it again. So when I went keto, I did it to see what all the fuss was about as a different person. So I've done it before. And when I last did it, I was about 30 years old. Now, I didn't love it even then, but I did see fat loss and I did feel pretty good being on it. However, back then, I wasn't doing as much activity and work in the gym with strength training as I am now. So that was something to take into consideration. And I'm continually hearing the scientists and the experts talk about gut health, insulin levels, and talk about the benefits of keto for so many aspects of health. So I thought, can't hurt to give it a go, right? Some fat loss, a clearer mind, sharper focus, better gut health, all the benefits were really staring right at me. So off I went. Now, I'm someone who loves to eat meat. I'm someone who loves to eat animal products. I would happily eat steak and chicken and eggs all day long. So for me, the diet part wasn't hard. I actually got to reintroduce cream back into my diet, full cream, which I loved. It's always been on the indulgent or no-go list for me. And it was good to be reminded that it's actually great in moderation. So when it came to eating the food, I had no trouble, right? Saying no to carbs was actually easier than I thought it was going to be. Now, I expected the typical first few days to be tough, desensitizing to carbs, getting them out of my system. I expected headaches. I expected low energy, reduced strength in the gym for a few days. I expected cravings, all those things. And they were all there. Now, I had actually already been sick with the flu the week before, so I'm not sure I would have even noticed if I'd ended up with the so-called keto flu. That happens towards, the end of that first week, sort of, day 3 to day 7. So that might have happened. I'm not sure. So some things let's dive into what happened. So some things went really well. I wasn't hungry anywhere near as much as I normally am, right? Maybe it was because I was still sick, but I think it was because of the better food, the more filling food. This lasted the whole 4 weeks. Right? So I'm guessing that it wasn't being sick and it was the foods, and I was eating whole foods that are high in protein, high in natural good fats, and they are always going to make us feel full quicker and for longer, always. So that was a huge bonus, not being hungry. Now, I'm someone who's always hungry. So if you are that person too, I always recommend removing processed foods and increasing your whole foods, particularly meats and animal products, because they really do curb your appetite, right? So get more of those in. Now, this point stayed true through the whole process, the whole 4 weeks, and I'm always stick by it anyway. The cravings for carbs only lasted a couple of days max. It really wasn't long before I stopped craving anything carbohydrate-based, even fruit. In fact, the only time I craved fruit was when I was thirsty, so water fixed that. And I was surprised and pleased at how quickly those cravings disappeared, because I'm someone who's always suffered from cravings a lot, always. It's got to do with a lot with my gut health and my hormones and, female things, all those sorts of things. So it really does come down to the quality of food going into your body and into your gut. Now, I barely had headaches in the first week. Since I was sick, again, it was hard to tell, but I really did feel pretty good. I was low on energy. Some of that could have been from being sick. I wasn't really aware of that one as much though. My favorite part of the whole process was trying different meat products, seasonings, different foods, again, getting the good fats in more, and, making sure that we're moving away from fat to bad. That was good. I've been comfortably saying no to processed foods, even more so, rubbish foods when they're offered. The mental strength during this process was a huge win for me, and I loved every minute of it because it proved yet again that we are in control and we can choose better for ourselves, better food for ourselves when we want to. We are not bound by food, and we do not need anything, particularly anything processed. On the flip side, however, would I do this again? Not anytime soon, and here's why. I continually got worse as the weeks went on, health-wise. My energy dropped and dropped and dropped. By the 4th week, I was so tired, I was barely functioning at all. I was looking for daytime naps. I was crawling into bed at 7:30 just to get enough sleep to get up in the morning and do it all again and get it to the gym, because I wasn't giving up my gym sessions. I started drinking coffee. I don't like coffee. I hate coffee, but I was drinking coffee just to get through the days. Now, as a perimenopausal woman, I was already pretty tired and already doing everything that I know to keep my energy levels up. But this was next level. I may as well have had COVID again. Now, the research on keto suggests that this tiredness lasts the first week, maybe 2. So I was okay with it at the start, but it got progressively worse and worse until I came out the other side of the 4-week mark. And I'll explain more on that in a little bit. My exercise, well, my weights in the gym dropped significantly. I was not able to lift nearly as heavy. And when I went to start with my warm-up weights, it felt like I was going too heavy. It felt like I was going to cause an injury. My body did not want to work at all. I ended up halving the weights I was lifting in so many of the sessions I was doing just to get it done. Now, this was not good at all. The treadmill was the same. I was walking slow. I was barely getting 30-minute walks in. Even around the block, was barely getting them in. I had never felt so weak. And again, this wasn't just the first week. This got progressively worse over the entire 4 weeks. So weight loss and fat loss as well, nothing. No centimeters lost, no body fat lost according to the DEXA scans, no scale change, even though I don't really pay attention to that. There was no change in how my clothes fit. Now, before people get on their high horse and say, well, were you counting calories too? Have you met me? Have you met me? Yes, of course I was, because that's often a keto trap many people fall into, is that they just eat as much as they want as long as it's not carbs, and think that it's calories don't matter still, and it's going to have all those beneficial effects. That's the biggest reason why people don't lose weight on most diets, right? But particularly keto. So no, overeating was not the reason nothing changed. I stayed within my calorie and macro windows. Now, I found the whole fat loss process component really interesting, because the studies done for perimenopausal women is to reduce carbs. It's pretty extensive, right? And this has always worked well. Removing processed carbs will help perimenopausal and menopausal women shift that extra body fat. And our menopausal, our minus the Meno Belly program is specifically designed for that and gets some really, really good results. It's actually our best best-selling program for results. So I think the difference here between what I was from when I started between in the keto diet was that I gave up all carbs, whereas beforehand I wasn't eating processed carbohydrates anyway. So at the end of the 4 weeks, I just decided it was time to pivot back. I couldn't possibly continue with the energy levels the way that they were, particularly when I was not seeing any benefits in lifting, any benefits in energy, any benefits in anywhere else. So, sometimes you really have to give it. I gave it that whole 4 weeks, which is not something many people do. People give up after a week or two. And I gave it the whole 4 weeks. And by then you should be seeing something. If it's working, you're going to see something at the 4-week mark. And as long as they are 4 perfect and precise weeks, so I was tracking my food, I was tracking my calories, tracking my exercise, my water, my sleep. It was so meticulous that I may as well have been in bikini comp again, right? But then when you see 0 benefits and only detriments, that's when you've got to pivot. That's when you've got to move back. I couldn't possibly justify pivoting back unless I had given it my all, which I had. So now if I'd been tracking meticulously if I hadn't been tracking meticulously, if I hadn't been exercising well and drinking my water and focusing on sleep, then I couldn't possibly have justified pivoting back because I hadn't given it my all. And this is where I see so many women fall down with their weight loss programs. They half-ass it for a few weeks. They don't really do the things that they need to do. They're inconsistent with the plan that's been put in front of them because they want to do this or they think they know better. They're like throwing spaghetti at the wall and expecting it to stick, and it's not working. And I work with women who do this and who have done this to their own detriment. So I was hell-bent in this journey on making sure that wasn't that for me. And I was OCD with my diet and I was feeling less human every single day. So I pivoted back. And the first thing I did on day 1 after the 4 weeks was have a banana for morning tea and some berries for dessert. That's it. I didn't go stupid and add bread or pasta or rice or processed carbs. I added some fruit, and that night I slept better than I had in that previous few weeks. On day 2, my exercise session in the morning felt amazing. Now, I work out before eating, so I was still feeling the impacts of those 2 serves of fruit from the day before. But then for the rest of that day 2, my energy levels were noticeably higher. I powered through so much at work that day that I felt unstoppable. It was pretty good. So then I had a few more bits of fruit on day 2, and then by day 3, I think I even had a potato for dinner, like with my meat. Day 3, my workout was back to what it was pre-keto. My warm-up weights that were too heavy in keto were now back to being my warm-up weights. And by the end of the week, I was lifting heavier than pre-keto and moving so much better in the session. So I was back to my progressive overload trajectory. I had so much more energy when I was walking. I wasn't looking at the couch all day long and wanted to crawl onto it. I was jumping out of bed easier again in the mornings. So these 4 weeks on keto, they weren't a waste of time. They taught me so much about my body that I needed to know, needed to be reminded of, I think, in a world that bombards us with messages. Do this, do that, try this, should be doing this, shouldn't be doing that. So here are my biggest takeaways that I hope will benefit you. Number 1, you have to listen to your own body. If it needs carbs, give it carbs. Clean, whole food carbs and not processed rubbish always. I love that I learned so much about what my body needs. Just because science has proven so many things, it doesn't mean that it's always the right fit for you. So that was my number 2. Keto is meant to be so good for us, but I learned that my body doesn't need it despite all the science. So that being said, however, clean eating will always be the right fit for everyone. So in case you're thinking like, oh, well, keto doesn't work, so I should go back to eating processed foods, eat like crap, doesn't work. No, it's clean foods. The third thing I learned is we are capable of so much more than we think we are. I was amazed at how easily I could say no to carbs, to processed foods. It was a reminder that we have the power to say no way more than we give ourselves credit for. And we are fully within control of the food that goes into our mouths. There really is no excuse for eating rubbish and then saying nothing works. We are in full control. Number 5, I love solidifying my reasoning that whole foods, high natural protein foods will reduce your hunger levels and keep you feeling full. That is the same impact that these GLP-1 drugs are having that they mimic in our bodies by eating better foods. It's way cheaper, it's better for you, and it keeps you in good habits. So that was the biggest thing that I love solidifying, was that understanding. So before you go down the path of taking drugs for weight loss, definitely try eating more whole foods. Number 6 was that I learned that it's okay to come out. I was too exhausted to function. I was way too exhausted to function. In that, especially by that 4th week, I was not human. So I think it's important to remember that while these diets are great, we have to function as human beings. We have to be eating foods that are going to sustain us, not just for the sake of a number on the scale or a fat loss number or a shape or anything like that. And that that inability to function, look, it's often associated with keto diets for the first few days, but none of that is worth it. Now, if I hadn't experienced that, then I probably would have kept going, right? Because I loved actually not being on any carbs. Like, there was that real sense of control that I had. It was really nice because we don't always get that in our diets. But the trade-off wasn't, right? The trade-off wasn't there. So that being said, I actually haven't changed much from my eating since stopping. So I've just added back in fruits. I've added back in vegetables. I've added back in, I think, twice in a couple of weeks, a high protein wrap for lunch. Definitely added some oats back in and a little bit of rice. Definitely, I haven't gone back to, the processed foods. And if it is, it's, one or two here and there. So would I recommend the keto diet for another woman in perimenopause? Maybe. I would say that it gets you eating cleaner. It's removing those processed foods from your diet. You're not just eating anything you want. You're not just eating as much as you want. So yeah, it's worth giving it a go a month. Like, see it through for a month minimum, because you have to push past those negative side effects. So 2 weeks minimum, maybe. You've got to push past those negative side effects while your body is cleansing itself of those processed products. The studies do show great benefits all around for the human body being on the keto diet. But I don't think you need to go to that extreme, to be honest. Maybe try eating more natural protein foods, more meat, more fish, more eggs, more avocado with good fats in it. Cut out your processed carbohydrates, completely processed packets, and see where that gets you first. Focus on whole foods, fruits and vegetables as your main carbohydrate source, and I think you will see some brilliant changes. Our Minus the Meno Belly program is perfect for this because it does help you reduce those processed carbs. It caters to the hormones for the menopausal women and the insulin levels. So if you want that, I'm going to drop a link below in the comments if you want to go and give that a go. It's a 4-week plan with exercise and meals, all that tailored to the hormones of a perimenopausal and menopausal woman, with the idea of keeping those natural carbs in. But would I recommend it? Who would I recommend it to? If you are someone who is already dialed in on their calories, dialed in on their macros, dialed in on their exercise and their water and their sleep. And by dialed in, I mean, every single thing that's going into your mouth and what's working and what's not. You know that you're hitting your calorie target. You're eating enough food, but not too much food. You're perhaps not eating a hell of a lot of processed foods, which we shouldn't be anyway, but we're human. Someone dialed in on your exercise means you are getting your steps in, you are doing some workouts. Dialed in on your sleep is, making it a priority, doing what you need to do to get your 8 hours. Dialed in on water is 2 liters a day, 1.5 to 2 liters a day. If none of those things are dialed in, and I don't like using the word perfect, but you can account for everything, then that's where you start. And if you are doing that already and things aren't shifting, then yeah, maybe we need to give keto a crack and give it a good 3 or 4 weeks. If you're feeling shit at the end of it, like if you're progressively worse like I was, then come out of it. But give it more than that 2 weeks, right? Give your body time because it needs time to adjust. And I'm glad I did that because then I saw that it wasn't for me. But it's not something I would recommend. If you're someone who is not eating well and not exercising very well and not drinking much water and sleep sucks and you're on your phone all the time, you don't need to go to that extreme. You definitely don't need weight loss drugs. You need to clean up in a few of those areas. It is that simple. There's no magic pill. And that's a whole nother discussion around the GLP-1 drugs, right? But just start in one of those areas. Get more steps every day. Add in a workout or two, or start to clean up your diet, eating less processed foods and more fruit, or start to drink more water. Just pick one thing this week and go for it. I don't think you need to go to the extreme of keto dieting unless you literally know that every other component is as good as you can get it. Now, if you need help with this, this is what we do. If you want somewhere to track it, that's what our app's for. If you want a team behind you, a coaching team that you can ask questions for, again, that's what our app is for. But at the very least, you can start your journey by fixing and improving things in those areas. I don't think you need to go to the extreme of doing keto. And yes, there are so many benefits on it, but right now, I think that as a perimenopausal woman, it was shit. It was terrible. So for me, it was a no. For you, it might be a yes. But I think it's an extreme that we don't need to get to until you're dialed in. And if you need help making that decision, of course, that's what we're here for. Reach out if you need. If you've got any questions, drop links in the comments. I think that's enough ranting from me today. Have an amazing week, ladies. Go and drink your water. Go move your bodies. Go eat cleaner. Have a good one.